Hi everyone. Good afternoon and good evening for some of from different time zones. As already introduced, my name is Ashish Dubey. I lead our solutions architecture team for Qubole. Let's jump into the agenda. Next slide, please. All right. So with some background on AWS from Nikhil, we will be uncovering some TCO innovations, especially focused on the data technologies and data platforms. So as part of that, we will talk about cost optimization and governance, pretty popular, and everyone is familiar, everyone understands the importance. And then we'll dive into cloud innovations by AWS, which is primarily focused on infrastructure layer, primarily like EC2, S3, etc. And then I'll try to touch upon some Qubole TCO innovations, which is focused on data layer, especially in distributed data systems like Apache Spark and Presto for different type of analytics. Okay, so TCO, I mean, everyone understands. So I'm just repeating that. It has always been very important factor, right? It might be shuffled in different priority layers at different times. Like, if company is growing, you might put it for a later point of time, but eventually TCO is the key factor. And in current COVID situation, as everyone knows, it has surfaced up, and now pretty much every organization in our customer base, many companies are actually looking back and trying to optimize things. And that's where the good news is, with AWS innovation over last several years and Qubole's contribution to data community, it was not like a reactive thing. We already had so many innovative kind of features, so it was just timely, and we just tapped into that. So we'll look into some of the customer stories as well. All right, so as many of you might be, I'm sure you would be coming from data community, data teams. These are some very well-known and familiar challenges. Why TCO is one of the pain points. And for data-driven businesses, those are good reasons, right? I mean, increasing data volumes. So if you are a data-driven company, your business is driven by that. Increasing data is a good sign. Increasing team sizes. So obviously, over a period of time, different data scientists, data analysts, BI teams, et cetera, everyone tries to use the same data. So different teams grow over a period of time, different experiences. So I think that's where some of these cost challenges come, because as we know, right, in cloud, we talk about ease of access, and it democratizes data and infrastructure. It also comes with that slight challenge of how to monitor the budgeting, SLAs, et cetera, et cetera. So cost governance actually becomes a key part of it. We'll talk about that, but it's a very important one, because when you have, let's say, 50, 60 people running things on distributed data systems, it becomes extremely important that how you're leveraging infrastructure and what is the room for innovation, what is the room for optimization, so that how you can do the same thing in the lesser amount. And the good news again is there are lots of avenues, there are lots of features, components in cloud, as well as the data layer which Qubole provides. So we'll touch upon that as well. Next one, please. Okay, so this is just to throw that thought, this is a snapshot of how the resource requirement or utilization changes. I'm talking about a distributed system where your workloads come in, there might be some different types of requirements. So take it as some resource requirements, so your CPU utilization, your memory utilization, this always looks very spiky. And the ideal desire over my last several years, I've been talking to many data administrators and different team members of data teams. People want to align their capacity provisioning to this, because that's the ideal model. So just wanted to leave with this thought, and then we'll touch upon that. Next one, please. All right. So with that said, in AWS, the cloud provider, just touching upon what are those components, what are those avenues where you can reduce your cost. So Spot instances, I'm sure those who are using AWS, it's been available for last several years. The good thing about this is it gives you an opportunity to actually optimize your cost up to 90%, which is a huge saving. It does come with certain caveats and conditions, and that's where Qubole taps in, and Qubole provides some algorithms to kind of make sure that despite having those caveats, how you can reliably use it. So we'll talk about that. Spot blocks, again, different type of spot with some certain guarantees on the time window, etc. And then last couple of years, we have seen AWS doing lots of innovations around Spot Fleet APIs to ensure how to maximize the availability, how to provide Spot experience without losing them, et cetera, et cetera. And then there are some other features like AWS EBS, Lustre file system, et cetera. So again, this was just the idea is to kind of look at like how AWS is helping the community about reducing the cost. And these are all APIs at the infra layer, and then we'll talk about how Qubole actually helps and leverages them. Next one, please. All right, so it's a bit of an introduction of Qubole. These are Qubole's pillars where Qubole adds value. Today, I'm just going to focus on the rightmost one, the reducing data lake cost by more than 50%. And I can tell you from my experience, in certain data teams and certain customer cases, that cost saving is up to 85% or even higher. And because of Spot instances and Qubole's intelligent Spot instance utilization, heterogeneous clusters. Of course, today we are not going to dive deeper into that, but those are some of the things. And then using workload-aware auto-scaling, how to actually utilize the resources in the right manner, how to provision capacity in time, and then downscale the capacity. So those are the things which contribute to your cost saving. So we'll look at a snapshot of that. Next one, please. Okay, so these are some data points. So as we started on a note of how TCO becomes important, especially in times of COVID, we saw that reaction from many of our customers. So some of the examples, leading super app ride-hailing company from Southeast Asia. Earlier, they were like, okay, I mean, we wanted to use it, but the decisions were being deferred. But then in last couple of months or 3 or 4 months, we have seen how they started utilizing Spot. It just increased 12x, and on the rightmost side, as you can see, the outcomes are very lucrative. It just converts into your dollar saving. Similarly, on the third one, if you see the global online travel agency, it was already great, but looking at the opportunity, the cost and the Spot utilization increased from 55% to 85%. So ultimately, it results into your dollar saving, and that's kind of validates the fact that while TCO is important, there are so many opportunities, and that's where AWS Qubole together could help. So that's kind of a good picture. Next one. All right. So we looked at that the spiky chart earlier. Now this is actually the capacity provisioning happening over 3 or 4 weeks for a real customer, and it tells us something very clearly that how to leverage your cloud capacity in the most optimized way. And some of the numbers are very attractive. Like in this particular chart, the Spot utilization is close to 95%. Savings are very impressive, like more close to $5,000 a week. Spot loss, again, there are some caveats I was talking about. So that is a pretty reasonable percentage, and that's where Qubole's robustness against Spot losses, etc. That helps. So that's a good kind of validation how with Spot, the TCO savings and reliability, how Qubole can help. And this is one of the snapshot from one of our customers. So that's good one to kind of look at. Next one, please. Okay, so we talked about TCO. Now, as we looked at some of the reasons, primary reasons are like your team sizes are increasing, your utilization is increasing. So we saw this growing demand from the beginning. People wanted to track cost at the pretty much at every level. It could be at the cluster level, it could be at user level. So very much granular at each command, like how individual command is costing to me. So that kind of view. So we used to help our customers with some of our rudimentary ways back in like 2015, etc. But then we realized that there is a real demand for this product. So Qubole came up with Qubole Cost Explorer. In that, we actually tag the cost pretty much at the job level, user level. So you can track when your new team on board, you can actually reflect and see that how this team is onboarding, how they're learning, how they're optimizing cost. So that's where it really helps over a week-to-week basis, on a day-to-day basis. You can actually react to some of those things and adopt some best practices to save your cost further. So that's just a quick view of what is the different level of costing and cost tagging people really are interested in, and what Qubole provides here. Next slide, please. So this is a sample dashboard, part of our TCO Cost Explorer. So again, here it literally shows at a very high level, at an exact level you want to present on a weekly basis or whatsoever. So that kind of is one of the cool functionalities. You can schedule these things. So this is really what this dashboard is generating, and actually helping organizations to react on some of those insights based on Cost Explorer results. Next one, please. And this is my closing slide. So as I mentioned, this was some of, one of those interesting requests that, hey, I really want to look at how these users are using the system, etc. So it is really a very granular way of looking at how these individuals are performing in terms of like how, whether there's some scope of optimization, or their queries which can be optimized. So it really helps those data admins to really go and talk to these guys and say that, hey, what exactly are you working on, which project? So that's kind of the level of insight any data admin really looks for. So with that note, I would hand it over to Srini, and we'll see some of the real experiences from our customers about Cost Explorer, cost governance, and we'll learn more about it. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you.